I did it.
Oh, I knew he was going to say it.
Guys, I always say it. I've only not said it once. It's like what I do.
One of these times we're going to get in such a groove that we don't have to confirm that we all push the button.
I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
I like doing it just to keep everyone guessing whether he's going to do it this time or not.
Well,
I think.
Will Jeremy record or not? Or will it just be...
My wife is giving me a very funny look.
Two brothers talking. That's because you were funny. She gave you a funny look because you're very funny.
She said I wasn't supposed to acknowledge her on the podcast.
Oh.
I will acknowledge you.
That's his job.
No matter where we are.
A husband's wife or a husband's job is to always acknowledge his wife. That's what he does.
That's true. I can't wait for her to hear this and be like, man, my husband's so good at acknowledging my presence.
That's what marriage is all about. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Well, let me start the episode by saying that it is episode 48 of Three Brothers Talking.
You don't know what get us down means right now.
And
almost to the big 5-0.
Almost to the big 5-0. I'm David.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Jeremy.
That's right. I almost said I'm David, the podcast pastor, but that's stupid. So there we have it. Now, here's one thing I've found really interesting.
He wanted acknowledgement there.
No,
yeah.
So here's why I say that is because I remember when we got started doing this, almost over 2 years ago now. So I think the first time we recorded might have been early December of 2018. I think.
Wow.
Does that sound right to you, Jeremy? It sounds right to me.
That sounds right. Back checking my map.
So
that's pretty crazy.
Back when we did that, like, I remember Jeremy and I met one time and we talked about what we would want to do for a podcast, things like that. And whenever we talk about all this stuff, at the beginning we were all like, well, what's the name of it going to be? What's its logo going to be? What's what are going to be some gimmicks that we have? What's going to be like the tagline? What, this is Three Brothers Talking, uncut conversations about life. Like that was the first thing that we said. And we used to introduce ourselves with like, I'm your blank host or something like that. So if we were still doing that, I would have said, I'm your pastor host, David. But here's the thing is we gave up on like all that stuff in I think record time for podcast, as far as podcasting goes. Because
we wanted to be our own thing.
Or did we just not care enough to be any particular thing?
Yeah.
That's probably better. That sounds all right.
Yeah. I just think that's really funny. Here we are 2 years later. And I would say that we're going like the Joe Rogan route, where like if you listen to Joe Rogan's podcast ever, it doesn't start with an intro. It doesn't really end with an outro. It's just, it starts with him saying, well, okay, here we are. I'm Joe and this is blank. So
yeah,
that's the route we're going, but not really on purpose, I would say. Right?
Yeah.
We're just going.
I think it's on purpose.
And who knows where the conversation's going to go.
Are you saying that we're going to be as successful as Joe Rogan at this?
Dude, I mean, I'd love it.
Can we moderate
if Spotify wants to call with his deal, then yeah.
How much did he get?
Oh, they called me.
How much did he get, Ange? Do you know? I know it was millions, but I don't know how much.
I forget.
Ange, do you have the ability? Jamie, look that up. That was no, you're not. No, you're not. I said Jamie, not Jeremy, because on Rogan's podcast. His assistant guy is Jamie.
According to the Wall Street Journal, it is north of 100 million. North of 100 million.
Goodness. The fake news thing was a joke, by the way. Nobody freak out.
Yeah.
100 million. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine getting paid 100 million
to have him do what he likes to do?
Yeah. Granted, he does it at a higher level than us. But he is essentially doing what we're doing now. And he gets paid $100 million to do it. So, you know what? If we get a tenth of that, that's fine. If we get 1% of that, I think that'd be fine too. Now, I'm not an accountant, but I think 1% of that would be 1 million, right? Is that right? Is that me trying to do math live?
If you've ever, I don't know if you guys have ever
I don't
watched
even
too,
know right
because
now.
like it's such a raw conversation in a lot of those with him where like I only pick out the ones that like might be interesting and then I'll listen to some. But they sit down for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then also like they've gotten so random in the conversation that he'll like have one comedian there and then someone else will just show up at his door and they'll just be like, yeah, come on too. And they'll just welcome him in the room. And like, he just hops in mid conversation and they just talk about whatever from there. Like the other week, it was Dave Chappelle just showed up in the middle of it. Like it was like an hour and a half in and he just jumped right in.
If Dave Chappelle shows up anywhere, you always just let him in. That's the rule.
Yeah.
You don't.
You give him a microphone.
Yeah, you just let him just come in.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because he'll have like he'll have episodes where it's astrophysicist or like a nuclear scientist or some really respected historian, and then in the other chair, chair is like some like punch drunk comedian that like this one guy will be saying all this serious informative stuff. And then the guy in the other chair, like, just jumps in with like the dumbest stuff imaginable every 10 minutes. And that's his thing. Yep. So I guess that's what we're going for. And really the reality is that none of us are either experts or comedians. And, but we can do the rambling conversation.
I always wanted to be a comedian in my prior life growing up. That was going to be my
I thought you said in your
my dream job.
I thought you said in your prayer life growing up.
No, that was always like, I was always a fan of like stand-up comics, and
that'd be fun.
Yeah.
It
would be. I've always wanted to be like, maybe someday, like I would just try it. You know,
just try it,
dude.
Yeah.
If you do it, I'll do it. We can have a Three Brothers talking. We can do each of us have a segment and then do a 3-time discussion.
Let's all go sign up. Let's all go sign up for an open mic night, 3 slots in a row.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've talked about that
and
before.
Just like we all get our 5 minutes and see who bombs the worst.
Oh. Are they even doing open mic nights now in places?
Yeah, you have to switch out the mic.
Yeah.
Oh. No licking the microphone.
Yeah, some places are open. I mean, comedy clubs, it depends on the place, I guess, with what they're able to do. And they probably just got to limit capacity.
You got to limit that.
It's got to be tough to go and like be up and coming in the world right now because you go to like an open mic night and there's like four people there. And you're like, all right, gotta get the crowd on my, it's gotta end before 9:00 PM. And there's like 4 people in the room.
Well, that's gotta be like in a stand-up comedy, you gotta feed off the audience energy wise so much. And like if everybody's in masks and they're spread out in limited capacity at tables, like I feel like that environment is not very conducive to getting some good comedy going.
I mean, if you ever listen to a comedy record by yourself, like there's some comedians that I've seen live, and then there's some comedians that I've seen them live and I've heard the same things, on a record later on.
Yeah.
And, or even watching a stand-up routine by yourself, it's not as funny when other people aren't there. There's something about a whole group of people agreeing that this is funny and you get carried away. It's the same way that you get carried away with a big football game and there's a huge crowd there, right? Right. There's a similar human reaction. And so I think it'd be really hard to go and do that now because, especially if you're not a well-known comedian, you do have to convince people to listen to you. And when there's like 10 people in a room made for 50 to 100, they're not going to have that communal help of like, let's all laugh together.
Or the same energy just being masked up at a table. Like,
you wouldn't be able to tell that anyone is even smiling at you, You'd only be able to know if they actually really start laughing.
Like, if they audibly laughed,
If they just do the small chuckles and stuff, you probably would just be like, okay, nobody's laughed at all. Yeah. Nobody's had even an approach of laughter. And even I'll say like on Sunday mornings at church, that's weird sometimes.
Yeah, how's that reacting?
It's, I don't know, like our church isn't particularly vocal, like with amens and things during sermons. So that
we don't have any big hallelujahs out there.
I mean, I wouldn't mind it if we had more. I wouldn't mind it, but
I'll do it.
I try to get at least one amen in every week.
That's right. If you don't, you weren't even really there. But
yeah.
So that's not as weird. Like I preached last week and it didn't feel remarkably weird, I guess. But I will say that like the singing is a little weird because most of the time I'm helping lead the singing. And what's weird with that is that for a lot of people when they're singing at church, you don't realize that you wouldn't know they're really singing unless you saw their mouths. Like whenever you see someone singing, you don't think, oh, if I covered up their mouth, I could still tell that they're singing.
Because the majority of your sound is coming back at you through monitors.
Yes. Yeah.
And you have to see. Yeah.
So you don't hear, you don't really ever hear the people singing a whole lot. And so you rely on seeing it. And unless people are like raising their hands or
dancing in the aisles,
or unless they're like unless they're a hyper expressive person like me, if I'm in the congregation and I'm singing along, I probably I'm not a very expressive person in that role really. Mm-hmm. And so probably I look a little bit like a zombie with a mask on. So it is a little weird, but yeah.
I was like, it's gotta be, I was like, our lead pastor, Jeff, he preaches the majority of the time and it's gotta be tough for him as far as, feeling that engagement with his sermons. Yeah.
More like it's tough for us to listen to that guy. Ha.
Yeah. It's easy for me to disagree under my mask. No, I'm just kidding.
It's easier for me to whisper to my wife.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jeremy didn't laugh at that joke. He thought he's afraid
I'm sorry.
He's afraid we just hurt Jeff's feelings.
Yeah.
No.
Jeff is
we're totally joking.
Man. Yeah, I mean that was one of the reasons
Jeff listens to the podcast.
Jeff knows we're joking.
That was one of the reasons that's one of the reasons we're all there is because he preaches the word. So
yeah, that's true.
So what are you guys drinking tonight?
David, I have a question for you. Speaking of that, has he ever asked you about the podcast before?
He's asked me about things on it. Yeah. Most of the time it's like, hey, you need to repent for this or that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, he's asked me about it. Yeah. He listens to it every now and then.
Just you, right? Not Andrew and me.
At least, just
he's
me.
never asked me anything.
At least every now and then.
David, you're off base.
Yeah.
Jeremy and Andrew, they sound pretty good.
I guess we'll see if he's listening to this because he'll respond.
We'll call him out. Yeah.
No one can tell him about this either. You just have to see what happens.
Yeah.
That's completely
Anyway.
Man, this is interesting.
Anyway, what are you guys drinking tonight? Because I think we all have bourbon. Well, Andrew doesn't. Andrew has...
I do not yet. I was waiting for my food to settle because I had a late dinner.
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah, I had Raisin Cane's. That hit the spot. But probably in between episodes or whatever we're doing, I'll grab some. But
okay.
Yeah.
So what do you have in your house right now, Inch? Do you have more than one?
I have a Cleveland Underground bourbon that I picked up, and it's with cherry wood aging.
Okay,
so it's very, very smooth. Yeah.
Okay.
I liked it. I mean, it's not anything too fancy. Very drinkable. Very, very smooth. So,
Jeremy, what do you got?
I have some. Bullet
I knew it was going to be Bullet. Good man.
The other day we had, I had some Maker's Mark the other day for the first time since, I don't know, probably in college. And it was
that's what I got right here. I was given,
well, that's a nicer one.
I know. So I was given a Advent gift, Christmas gift, early Christmas gift from one of our fellow elders. Shout out to Justin.
The Rolston.
Who is a whiskey maven.
Justin knows a lot about whiskey.
He knows a lot about whiskey.
He has like a collection, doesn't he?
So he got me Maker's Mark 101 limited release. So it's 101 proof, pretty heavy. And it is pretty good. I'll be honest. I've never had Maker's Mark at all. And so this is probably spoiling me for regular Maker's Mark because this is like a nicer version of it. But
it's the better version.
But it's very good. So
it's like you had the message, you had like the SV and the message is chilling out. on your bookshelf.
Is the message just the regular Maker's Mark in this comparison?
Well, it probably would be lower than the Maker's Mark.
Okay.
Whatever, like the lower of that would be. If there's a low.
Yeah, like Maker's Mark is still
we
good.
can say NIV.
Yeah,
I would make it like the NIV.
And then it's like
Old Crow. That's what the message is.
Or like the NASB or something. Yeah.
Nah, dude, I like the NASB, man. Although I usually read both NASB and ESV.
That's what I'm saying. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. We're good.
Anyway.
That was a tough call.
Anyway. What we're going to talk about right now is the fact that 2/3 of the podcast has now been dads for over 2 years. That would be Andrew and Jeremy.
Wait, let me check your math. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got 2.
So Andrew and Jeremy now have crossed over. I didn't realize that we kind of started this whole thing right when you guys had kids then for the first time.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Really gave us that beginning content.
Yeah, you had tons of free. You had all of a sudden you had tons of free time, right? You had kids and you just had tons of free time. So you're like, let's start a podcast.
And then since then we've all had 2, so we have even less.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Andrew and Jeremy just crossed over in November. You guys just crossed over into 2 years, full 2 years of having kids because both of your sons became 2. And so we're going to talk a little bit about a 2-year retrospective because that's what we like to do because in life, sometimes we just go through it and we don't stop and think like, well, what has God taught me in the last year or over the last 2 years? And so, we'll see now it's the moment of truth to see if Andrew and Jeremy, did properly prepare it all. And think about it. So if you guys have anything that you want to go right off the bat of like, this is something I want to talk about, you can do that. If not, I got a question to kick things off. So what do you guys want to do?
Well,
I'm good.
I mean, I have some things, but depending on where the question goes, I don't want to go in a completely other area.
Okay. Here's my first question.
So let's start with the question and then we'll go to what,
What did you think you knew at the end of the first year, but now you actually know it in year 2? You know, something that you, at the end of the first year, you're like, I knew this. And then in the second year, God actually taught you tons more. And to now you look back at year 1, Dad, and you're like, you still don't know, you know? You get what I'm asking?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, a hyper spiritual answer, but yeah.
This kind of leads into what I was, a little bit as far as what I had thought about. But I would say the biggest thing that got like hammered home is just that I am not able and, I'm not, really equipped to control every single aspect that I would like to. When it comes to like, when it comes to just the day-to-day stuff and all that, and I'm very much a control freak. And like with year 1, with just Lincoln, it was very much like I wanted to be, I wanted to have control over every aspect. And that's what led to, as far as looking back and learning from, it was a lot of kind of backbiting and a lot of things that were not necessary between me to Kaylee because of the way that things were handled that were not right in my head, but yet like she parented a little different and like the job still got done and Lincoln is still strong and healthy and all the things that are, way outside of my control. And that's what has further cemented, with kid number 2. And as we get into this second year of Lincoln's life and he's so much more stable, like on his own now.
Third year of his life.
Well, like we're over the second year. Yeah. We're into the third year of his life. Sorry. But yeah, like it gets reiterated now that like all that pettiness about things that you would do differently or like why, like there would be times where I would just react when he's learning to walk and he stumbles and falls and he, bonks his head or has a cut or something like that. And like the instant backfighting of like, oh, Kaylee, you were watching him that time. Why didn't you, why weren't you there? And it's like, all those things that happen just in the realm of things where like, I don't need to have that initial reaction, and I can't control every aspect of my son who's going to encounter those things.
Yeah.
Just,
especially
as he goes through life.
Especially your son, because he moves at a rapid pace.
Yeah.
And he's young, so he doesn't know how to control his speed, but he knows how to move quickly.
No, he ran before he walked, and like even today he ran and he bit it right into, like, he has like a kind of cubbies, like where his toys go away and stuff, and he fell straight into that. got a little cut, like right on, like basically right on his eyebrow.
It's all right.
So it missed his eye and everything like that. All good.
Girls love scars.
But I was like, and like even then, like, I was technically watching him at that time, but like like he's just playing, and I can't stop him from doing that.
Yeah.
Like,
so. I think it's funny. I think it's funny how on the surface you're just kind of learning to, like, on the surface that feels like a lot of really small things, insignificant things, but underneath it is a spiritual reality of learning to let go of that intense control that we want. Like, we don't realize how the backbiting, I love that you use that word, because I think that's, I'm not a parent yet, but I feel like one thing I see in marriage a lot, one thing I see in parenting a lot is, Rachel and I talk about this all the time, people that just like, they backbite their other spouses in public too, like they don't seem to, and one of the reasons that we both don't like that is because there seems to just be like it seems to indicate like a fight for winning the relationship and a fight for control.
Yeah.
And honestly, if I'm just speaking from myself, like when I'm tempted to second guess somebody or to call somebody out on something, most of the time, what's going on in my heart at that time is that I want to make that person feel worse so that I seem better and smarter. And I want them to be under my control in the next situation so that it can turn out the way that I want it to turn out. And if we're honest, everything
and
I
like
just
parenting,
everything
parenting just gives you a brand new avenue. Yeah.
Everything.
And parenting just gives you this brand new avenue to go down that road because you have a lot of control over this new life.
Supposedly.
And like, and like, even though you can't control everything, like, so there's brand new opportunities where like you would do something different and you want to elevate your own thinking, or that you could have stopped certain things from happening, which it all stems from pride. And just, and looking back now, it's like, it's all stemming from a thought in my head that I could have better control over these things than my spouse could. And that, that doesn't really make sense looking back. And like, in spite of all that pride and that thinking, like we have two, a boy and a girl, two beautiful children that are perfectly healthy, perfectly content and growing, in spite of that. And with all the mistakes and all the accidents and stuff like that happened along the way.
Yeah, I think there's an aspect of, and Jeremy, you can weigh in on this if you want to, this part of it, but I would say there's an aspect of learning how to love your spouse, like in the moment when you're tempted to like call her out, like, why does Lincoln, why didn't he eat the lunch that he's supposed to eat today? Whatever, something like that. In a moment you have to learn to love your spouse better. You have to love your spouse more than you want to love yourself. You have to love your spouse enough to like trust them, to not denigrate them in front of other people, even your kid, even if your kid's really young. You have to choose to love them, to trust them, that they're not idiots, and that God has given them wisdom too. And you also have to assault your own pride and be like, no, what? Okay, it's not exactly how I would have done it. Or, how am I, I'm not Superman. I'm not going to make everything perfect. And
You make an interesting point about, like it's very obvious when you see those types of relationships flesh their way out when they make those, that the backbiting happens like publicly with other people.
Yeah.
But then like, I've seen even inside of households where like, and fortunately, I think I'm starting to flesh this out, and God's revealed this understanding prior to, I think, Lincoln and Addison really being able to understand.
Yeah.
But like, I was like, I've seen it in households where, kids are teenagers and like they're seeing it, like, and that's where they're fully able to comprehend what's happening and the backbiting and all that, which is really sad.
Yes.
So hopefully, hopefully that continues. I still make mistakes and that still creeps in depending on the day. And like how much sleep that I get through, we get through the night with Addison or whatever, like then the next day I can be more irritable and more prone to backbiting.
Yep.
So like I have to guard against that more. So hopefully that's getting rooted out prior to, my children.
That's a good point.
Really being able to see. Yeah.
Jeremy, I'm going to let you jump in. I'm going to say like one more sentence because I think this is really, it just came to my mind. Getting that out of your marriage before your kids can really be impacted by it, I think is huge.
Yeah.
Because I think that few things can poison your kids and your family vibe and their health and their maturity as much as kids growing up, seeing a mom and a dad constantly like backbiting or throwing, like being at each other's throats. I just think that it doesn't do good because it teaches the kids like this is how you deal with other people. You backbite, you yell, you get power, you get control over them. So and it's good.
Or you just always assert how you could be better in a situation.
Praise God that He's shown that to you guys, and that's really good, really, really good.
Yeah. Hopefully, I was like, I mean, it doesn't happen often. I was like, it comes down to just when you're tired and when you're not guarding against it, where I can, you can see it happening, and then we recover, I think, pretty quickly in those moments where like we see after the fact of like, okay, didn't need to say that thing, didn't need to react that way. So hopefully we can catch that more right away. Yeah.
Jeremy, you got any thoughts on that or a different answer to the question?
Yeah, I think that's something that thinking through. Let's jump off a bit, I guess. I think that's a huge thing is figuring out. So Faith is with our kids all day, every day. It's realizing
all day, every day.
The stress that has on her that I guess, and Andrew, you pointed out the fact of being more patient or like she has a better pulse on things than I obviously do. So I guess I'm trying to learn how to sit there and say, okay, I don't know exactly what happened today. So when I come home, Micah wants to play right away, but that might not be the best thing. I don't know. Because sometimes he's in trouble or something that I don't know. But I think also trying to learn to discipline. There's something I was disciplining well, I guess is something that we're still learning to jump off.
You haven't mastered it in 2 years?
No,
as your pastor, I'm very concerned.
Trying not to get angry, I guess, is something as stupid as like, Micah, I told you not to touch this thing, and you still touch this thing. And it might be something really stupid, right? But he wants to keep plugging in his Christmas lights and his tree. And I'm like, okay, like, I know you want it. And I know it's like, you can plug it in the outlet, but I don't need to plug it in the outlet. So like those kind of things, like where it's like frustrating, it's repetitive, but also okay, I'm teaching him and not being exasperated, which I know I'm not good at, or not necessarily raising my voice if I don't have to. Because that's something I think I'd like to be better at those things. I think I'm realizing more and more the fact that I don't want my primary tone to be him, regardless if I'm not mad, sounding like I'm mad.
Yeah.
That 2-year-olds, I was like, Lincoln is big. Like when it comes to any type of like timeout or anything that we have to sit down and like instruct and like you're getting stern with it. 2-year-olds push your patience in that because for Lincoln, I don't know about Micah always, but he thinks it's a game.
Yeah.
where it's
Right.
like, as soon as he figured out the thing that you didn't want him to do, then it's like, oh, like we're playing and I continue to do it and I get daddy's reaction from it. And it, like that connection of like the stern voice and daddy instructing something different it sets in, sometimes, but not others. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where 2-year-olds can be fun. Yeah.
Jeremy, I liked what you said there about like learning to trust that your wife has potentially, probably a better beat on, the mood of the house and also you said recognizing that she undergoes a lot of stress throughout the day, spending the whole day with the kids that you don't recognize all the time, mm-hmm. that like you wouldn't necessarily see, but it's there like under the surface. I like that because that's a good piece of advice in a marriage is being aware of all the stress that's underneath the surface of your spouse and trying to be patient when that surfaces in terms of anger or frustration. But also, trying to be a good servant in alleviating that. And that's a good point. I like that a lot. So, yeah.
And you realize, I was like, there's a lot of times too where your kids like tend to like, for right now, Lincoln is fully in a mommy mood. Pretty much, like whenever we're home or whatever, and then he wants to play, he wants mommy by his side. And so, like I want my time to play with him too. But if he's not interested right then I need to be better at recognizing like, oh, that's not just me to have some downtime. Then it's me to be like, okay, what does Kaylee need done that I can serve? As far as like, getting the next bottles ready, getting our dinner prepared, getting the other household things. So it's a lot of, you definitely have to read the household a little bit more. And that's coming to the forefront as far as needing to juggle 2 children now. So,
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
All right. Question 2. And this might be, in some ways it might be similar, but this one might be a faster answer. And how do you think you're a different man than who you used to be before you had kids? Take it away.
Dead air.
How would you say that you've changed since you had kids? Sometimes I ask really good questions.
Yeah.
I ask really
Jeremy, you got anything?
No. I don't know. Dave, why don't you answer that question?
You want me to answer it for you?
Give us time.
Or do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead, Nate. Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
All right. I think Jeremy is no. Like so thinking back, if I think about this time frame, like my last 2 years, I think God had to work a whole lot on me. In some ways, the control problem and the patience problem had to happen a whole lot with me. I had to be a lot better at leaving things in God's hands than I was before 2 years ago. I wanted everything to be calculated. I wanted growth and progress in life. I wanted things to look how I wanted them to look. And when things didn't look how I wanted them to look, I would very quickly just say that's wrong. And I think I was known 2 or more years ago. I think I would probably be mainly known for my opinions and the things that I was against, the things that I didn't approve of, the things that I disagreed with. And I hate that was me, but I think that was me. And I'm trying to be better at, and this sounds so cheesy. It sounds so like generic, American evangelical Christianity, but I am trying to be better at being known less for stances on things and a little bit more like known for the way that I have I don't like saying I just like to be known just for loving people and caring about people well, because I just think that those words don't mean a lot in our context. But I would say like I want people not so much to know my stances on things. I want people when they think of me, I hope that they think of a man who's patient and kind and faithful and like steady and mature. I want people to think that God really has given me a peace and a steadfastness and a steadiness that I go through life less frazzled, less angry, less up and down. And I think that 2 years ago, I think by God's grace, I think I'm closer to that now than I was a few years ago. Because I think God put me through things that taught me that in tough ways. And I think that that's something that he's had to work on me a lot in the last few years. And so I think I'm better at, I remember reading in a novel, it was one of the Cliff Graham books, Jeremy, about, I don't know which one it was. Maybe it was Covenant of War or something like that. And there's just a line in it where one of the characters is told, make sure that you don't love the ways of God so much that people don't forget that you love God. Or something. It was something like that. Like you should love God as much as you love the ways of God. As much as you love his law, you should love him. And that just kind of struck me. And I don't think 2 years ago that I would have necessarily been known. I think I would have been known more as ready to fight, ready to nitpick, and that was a manifestation of wanting to control things and teach everybody every little thing that I thought was right. And now it's like, I still want to teach everybody that I think is right, because I think it's right, obviously. But I think I'm better at doing that patiently, and I'm not as up and down or frazzled or angry about it. So that's where I would say in the last 2 years, I think the biggest change has happened in me. And that was without kids. So whenever I do have kids, who knows what'll change? Who knows?
I was like, the two things that stick out to me are, like you said, I think I've gotten to a point where I am a little more patient, since starting out. Like, I'm thinking back to like when Lincoln was an infant, and like every little, like if he was sick or every little thing that happened to go wrong, I was like hands on. We were ready to, I was wanting to figure out the answer, have control.
And we called you the helicopter dad for the reason.
Yeah. Like I was fully, and like, that's where a lot of the backbiting and stuff with Kaylee first started. But then, with Addison now, I feel like I've gotten to the point where we are a little more patient, and I can be a little less control freak, in that aspect. And then the other part, I think, which I'm thankful for, is that I think I utilize the time in my day a lot better. And I'm a little more efficient. And like, I think, I've grown to realize that like I can operate, and I've gotten my body more keen to operate on a little less sleep. And that's been a good thing, because like I can get more done. Yeah. Like I feel like I'm utilizing the time throughout my day. I'm maximizing more as far as the time that I can get things prepared before the kids wake up in the morning. I can, like be there for breakfast, getting them ready for their routine. I can then focus on my work time. I can then have playtime with the kids. I can then do, all the other things that need to happen. So I feel like the day I've gotten better at, kind of time management and
that's good.
Maximizing the day that I can and thankfully, God has kept me energized and all that through that.
Yeah. That's good. Jeremy, what about you? You the same guy?
No, I think that's something that I've changed a little bit, I guess. Hopefully more mature, more holy. I think I see a lot more of my need to be more flexible. I think even if you're a pretty easygoing person, you sit there and say, man, when it's different when you have kids and a wife. And also, I think something that I remember sitting there and reading books and like people say, the most important thing your kids need to learn is that you really love your wife, that they need to have a home that's secure, and that's the most important thing, that especially young boys and young, if I think about our daughter now in the mix of, I want them to see that I love their mom above all else. And I think that's one thing, learning to how we can do that tangibly, and show that to Micah when I get home. And one thing, like, yes, like great playing with him, but also making sure I'm spending time, at least trying to spend time with Faith, which is hard when we have a 2-year-old and who's potty training and a 4-month-old who needs attention. But so trying to, I guess, make that more of a priority, and that's not necessarily kid focus, but also like it is kid focus. More so and also trying to encourage Faith to sit there and say, what does she need? In ways she wants to serve and grow, or like things that we think our family needs to do that might not be what every other family does or puts money into or spends their effort in, I guess. What's our family value, and how do we teach our kids those values? That kind of thing. I think more so than ever, I'm sitting there thinking, like, how do we make this family our own more than anything else? Jeremy. David's trying to mute and unmute at the same time. David, you realize your recording still has you unmuted, right?
Say what?
You just went mute.
Oh, sorry. My wife just got home. I was trying to get her to. I was trying to get her to come into the room so I could say hi to her while and do it while you were talking, but our communication
wasn't good. We're saying hi to Rachel on the pod.
We're saying hi to you right now. I'm glad you're home from work.
Way to acknowledge her.
So when Rachel listens to this in 2 weeks when it gets released, hello.
Yes, she had to work the later shift this week, and I don't know how she does it, because she has to walk from the hospital to like her car. Like for me in my office, my car is like 6 feet from not the front door of my office. It's basically 6 feet from my desk, right? Like
he parks outside the doorway.
It's basically outside my own desk. And she's tough enough to walk through it every day, especially now when it's cold outside. And I feel, but no, that was really good, Jeremy. And I'm glad to hear that, and how God has used parenthood to change that over 2 years. And what's amazing, I think, is that every single year you'll get around to the next year and you'll be like, oh, I learned a whole lot more. And sometimes it's the same lesson that God keeps hammering in deeper, because that's what needs to keep going, needs to keep growing. So you guys got any other thoughts, or we can kick it to the closing remarks here.
I mean, I like what Jeremy pointed to, and like one thing that, like, when you start having kids, obviously sleep and energy are at a premium. For like maximizing that, but still making sure that you're investing in your spouses whenever you can, like after you get the kids to sleep or whatever. Like even now, challenging ourselves to not just like, okay, kids are in bed, everything's done, the needs done, let's go sleep. Like still taking the time to like have some time with just Kaylee and I is really important too. So
I think that's
kind of a recommendation, I guess.
I think that's really good.
To make sure that you're doing, and something that is definitely key too, because like that also helps you decompress from any of the backbiting or any of the stress that the day might have thrown on you. Having that to kind of like circle the wagons and like get back on the same page is pretty key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I think Rachel and I have been,
and then you don't go to bed angry. So
yes, yeah. I think that point about making sure your kids know above all else that you love your wife, I think that's huge. And Rachel and I have been better at like ending our days with talking to each other instead of just like watching something together, or at least because I mean working different schedules like we do. We don't have kids yet, but working the different schedules in some ways, like having kids, makes communication hard a little bit, you know, because you just, you know, like there's plenty of nights when I have to get up really early, she has to get up really late, and then her schedule changes to where she has to get up at 4:30, right, to getting to the hospital by 6 or something like that. So that can make communication really weird, and it's better now that she's not on the night shift, but I've been grateful for us doing that, talking instead of just, I don't know, surrendering that time when we finally get in the same room. But I'm going to give a quick anti-recommendation, and that is that for the first time in my life, I've bought a few things from eBay and I've had a bad experience. And so I bought...
What'd you buy?
It's actually 2 different video games, which is lame. But so the first one I bought, and it just never showed up. I messaged the guy.
Did you get Tony Hawk?
I did get Tony Hawk's Remastered. It hasn't shown up yet. Yeah. That's my second thing. The first thing was that I got, I think I don't remember what it was. I think it was Battlefront or something like that. But I bought it, and then it just never showed up. And I file a complaint with eBay, and they say, go back to the seller. I go back to the seller, literally no response for like a month. So now I'm hoping to get a refund from PayPal. Hopefully they should. Anyway, and then I bought the Tony Hawk's Remastered because it's nostalgic and it's everything. And it was one of my favorite games growing up. And it was so really cheap. It was really cheap too on eBay. So you can probably find it on eBay for a pretty good price. But then like it gave me an update on this Monday. We're recording it on Friday. This Monday it said, hey, it's in Seattle, Washington. Post office has it. It's going to start coming to you. Should be there on Tuesday. and it's Friday. And it's Friday, right? And it's going to be here on Tuesday, and it's Friday. So there has been zero
but that's
updates.
the post office.
I know. Well, yeah, probably because this guy got it in the mail. But
so many jokes trying to make up the USPS.
Either
right
way,
now going on.
Like I was like, that'll like it could be another week or so, but you'll get no updates. It'll just show up.
There hasn't been a single update. And what's funny is that every day it emails me and says your delivery is delayed, and then it gives me like today's the 4th. It gave me yesterday. It emailed me. On the 3rd, it emailed me on the 3rd at 9:00 at night and said, your package is delayed. It will arrive by the 2nd. On the 3rd, it emailed me that. And today it emailed me and it said, your package is delayed. It'll be there on the 3rd. And I'm like, no, it's not, because it's already the 4th. So
Kaylee had a similar thing with the Postal Service recently with some shoes for Addison from like a boutique seller on Etsy.
Classic.
And so like, it wasn't the seller's fault, but like, Kaylee was like, hey, it's been a month and we don't have your shoes. So can I get refunded? Because like by the time Addison gets the shoes now, they're going to be too small, basically.
Yeah.
So I was like, they went back and forth, and the USPS had no tracking of it, no nothing. And then they just showed up one day, and like it was supposed to be like 3 to 5 day shipping, and they showed up like 3.5 weeks later.
Well, like I would love it to just show up. And I'm not disparaging. This is not an anti-post office podcast.
No,
it's just
they're hardworking Americans.
Just right now, I'm a little confused. So hopefully it shows up. So my recommendation. I don't know what that means. I've had some bad experience. The first time in my life, I bought plenty of things off eBay. I've never had this bad fortune on it. And now I've potentially lost out on like 30 or $40 because of these things. So that's no fun. A good recommendation, though, is that I just read Magician's Nephew in Lion Witch in the Wardrobe because I was given a collection of Chronicles of Narnia and the Space Trilogy.
I'm almost done with that, by the way.
You're almost done with what?
I'm reading that book as well.
That's a collection of books.
Currently.
Which one are you reading?
Well, I'm reading Magician's Nephew.
Okay.
I'm on like chapter 13
Gotcha.
or 15.
Gotcha. Yeah, those are both really good. I think I recommended those in the last book club that we did, Jeremy and I did, but I'm like 5 or 6 chapters into Out of the Silent Planet from the Space Trilogy by C.S. Lewis. That's very good. So yeah, recommend those heartily. Just don't buy them on eBay. Go to a bookstore and pick them up instantly in your own hands so that you know that they'll reach your house. Physically.
Brick and mortar, baby.
If you're allowed to leave your house these days. I don't know what state you're in as you listen to this.
Dude, I don't know where we're allowed
if
to
you're
do anymore. It's almost 10 o'clock. I'm just going to hang out outside, actually, for a little
If you're in California, you're out of luck. So, yeah. The books you have are the books you have. But anyway, that's my recommendation. You guys got anything?
Jeremy looks...
I feel like Jeremy feels a pressure to like come up with one, even if he doesn't have one.
I ain't got nothing.
Yeah.
Read a book. There you go. I've been reading a book at night and it's been helpful. Yeah. There you go. That's my reco. Rather than TV.
Read a book.
This is
brush your teeth at night.
This was sponsored by Big Books. Big Library.
Sponsored by Goodreads.
Big
sponsor.
The big book industry.
The big book company.
We're in the tank. We're in the tank of the big book industry.
We should write a book together. That'd be interesting. Like Re-Raptured, but do it 3 ways instead of 2 ways. Super great.
But what would our book be about? Is that something more
Re-Raptured again?
Well, they already wrote that book. And I've read it.
Well,
and it's very
Re-Raptured
again.
How about Unraptured?
How about
we could do like a Three Brothers. We could do like a Three Brothers memoir.
That would
like
be
have
fun.
it be like a collection of stories.
We could write a biography about the other brothers. We could each write a biography about I'll write one about David and Andrew. And we can see which one actually lines up with our lives.
I love the idea of a collection of our stories. I think it's got to be
stories.
And like we each give accounts of different stories.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that idea. That's actually really good.
Yeah. And then like we do the story from like your perspective and then from my perspective.
Jeremy, and then it'd be like Jeremy jumping in here. This is where David's about to lie to you. Like I remember this differently.
Yeah. This is not what
probably happened was Andrew and Jeremy were completely innocent when Mom locked us in the room.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Well, if anyone out there is a publisher and they want to reach out,
we can start our own. Let's just start our own publishing company.
Andrew, we're already in the tank of big books.
We should just
we might self-publish it. Company. Otherwise, you can definitely get on the hook.
That's right.
How hard is it to start a publishing company?
Not hard at all. I read a book about it from the Gut Check guys. So
there you go.
Here's the thing.
Zachy B and Teddy
we could, you know what? If we did this, I could float the idea to them and maybe it'd be thought of, but
David, my dream could come true. I could probably hang out with Ted.
We could have a book. We could have a book. I don't know what you call it. Book drop. Book release day. Album release
book
day.
Review. Yeah. Yeah. So we could do a reading on the podcast.
We'll do a virtual book signing. Book signing. Yeah, I love it.
We can just throw them to our neighbors. I'll throw them to my neighbors. Like, here you go. I wrote a book. I'm sure they'll like it.
So that's a really good idea that we just came up with.
We've fallen off the wagons, but we came up with a really good idea.
Hey, this has been a podcast.
I'm going to Google how to start a publishing company.
David,
you have the book.
I literally have a book that's about it. So
we could just interview. It'd be more fun to interview Zach and Ted.
That's true.
About starting it. We should have something to do on the pod.
Three Brothers Talking podcast is 2 years old now. We've already
about time we
done that. We got to find the next thing.
I'd say we've
time to branch out.
We've exhausted the full frontier of podcasting at this point, and it's time to branch out.
Then a movie or a TV show.
A movie. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we did it. We did
it. We've recorded
an episode. I think we did all right. And we came up with a really good idea in the end.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
With all that in mind, we'll be back.
I'm gonna recommend our future publishing company. By the way, I'm changing my
the
recommendation.
book that we write in the future. Buy that.
Everything we ever publish or write, I recommend.
And read it.
Forget about C.S. Lewis. Buy that. Buy the book that we're going to write.
Saving now.
About this.
If you save $1 a day now, you'll have enough money to spend.
Exactly.
In like 2 days.
Yeah. I'm sure our book will be
all right.
Big money. So anyway, this
is a long one, boys. We got to wrap
it up. So here we are wrapping it up. And this is episode 48, Three Brothers Talking. I'm David. For Jeremy and Andrew, we're signing off. And
it's a wrap.
We'll see you guys next time.